Today, I'm going to talk about a new feature called the relative to feature, and I'll show you a real example of that. So the relative to feature is a feature that allows you to measure the displacement, speed, or acceleration relative to a specific location. All right, so I'm going to try to give you an example of that. So this is a Swiss rifle firing. Okay, I'm just going to scroll through to show you some of the action. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to first calibrate this video. Okay, I'm going to call this section 1 inch. All right, it's calibrated. I'm going to select the track button, and once I do that, it's already ready to go in auto tracking. So I just click the point I would like to track. So I'm going to click this nice white dot. I'm going to use the Control and arrow key to walk my way to the very center of the object and click enter. I'm going to add another object here. All right, I'm going to use my Control and arrow keys to locate the center of that. And then just for good measure, I'm going to add another point here because we did have a question, can you track multiple points at the same time? And I'm going to add it to this corner. All right. And what a lot of folks like to know is they want to know what is the speed of this element here, this slide, essentially this bolt relative to the gun body. Okay. So first I'm going to just track these points. So if I just right click any of these objects, actually what I should do is name them. Just call it the bolt. We'll edit this one. We'll call it the body, and we'll call this one the lower body. Okay, so now I have these 3 objects, and I'm just going to right-click one of them and open my auto track dialog. And what I have here is I have the frame range that I want to process. So by default, it's the full frame range from 183 to 101. I have my search area, which is this little black box. That's essentially going to define where my algorithm is going to search for my template objects, which are defined here. They're 31 by 31 pixels. That's that little colored box is the red, orange, and yellow. Okay. And what makes this very unique from PCC 3X, the older tracking software, is we have the ability now to define the subpixel parameters. So by default, this is a single pixel tracker, but we also have the ability to now to do, for example, if we want to do a 1/10 of a pixel, we can interpolate and do a 1/10. All right. So it really helps you to get better tracking data. Okay. So just for brevity here, I'm just going to go ahead and click process all. And what you're going to see is it's going to process the bolt. All right. Then it's going to process the body. So it's searching for these markers in all of the frames. And then finally, it's going to do the lower body, all with single pixel accuracy, just for an example. All right. So if I close this now, I can see I have this nice path across all my frames. So if I move this back, I can see the motion tracked really nicely with subpixel accuracy. And then I can see here I have very little motion as expected. Okay, and same for the other location here, this lower gun body. So what's really important to a lot of folks is what is the speed or displacement of this object here, the blue object or the red object relative to the orange. So what I'm going to do here is just right click bolt, and I'm going to set relative to the body. And what you notice here is now, instead of having just 0, 1, 2, it has 0 relative to 1. And now, if you notice, my graphic has now changed. By default, when not doing relative to, the objects are relative to themselves. So the position always starts at 0, 0. So you can see for the orange and yellow objects, they start at 0 and then they go forward. Now, you can take a look at the relative displacement. And a good way to mentalize this, to think about this, is think about essentially a string connected between the red and the orange dot now. Okay, so if we take a look, the displacement between the orange object at this frame and the red is this length. And as I slide across, as you would expect, the red object is getting closer, and this is the closest it is, right? So there's a minimum displacement here, and then so on. All right, so if we want to see that with a better view, we can click this widget here to pop it out. All right, and we get really nice information about our track. And we can select our displacement. We can look at our X displacement. We can look at our Y displacement, and we can even do our speed measurements, okay? All relative to that subject. And one final thing I would like to mention before I hand it back over is, let's say, for example, you really liked this position here because it's the minimum distance between these two objects, which some folks like. That's frame -142. I can go down to negative frame 142, and I can go to the red object, right click, and I can do, I can just add a note to it, to 142, and I can call this the min. And if I click enter, now what it'll do is it will mark that graph with a label, all right? And when you go to export this as a report, that will be highlighted in your report. All right, so this is all I wanted to show you. These are some new features that just came out with version 18. Highly encourage you to go ahead and download it and give it a try. And also, if anybody has fantastic examples or requests, we're very open to integrating them into this package. So thank you for your time.